What's happening? Uh, it's it's crazy this day and age that we live in. I mean, things seem so on the surface they seem so promising. So we got all these new powers and technologies and ways we can help and assist society. You know what I'm saying? Well, anyway, that's the way that they speak about it. All in whispers. You know what I'm saying? And it's like it's funny, man. In Isaiah, he refers to Israel as Egypt and Sodom. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, man, what are you talking about, Sodom? You know what I'm saying? Because so many people are confused about what Sodom is. You know what I'm saying? They think it's just sexual immorality between same sexes, but it's not. It's about fertility rights, which you can't have fertility without man and woman. You know what I'm saying? So, and this is still Sodom. You know what I'm saying? And Sodom also was corrupt. The legal system was corrupt. Their holidays were corrupt. They were Nimrod days. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, man. Even like this, this is bondage. It is an addiction. I've been fighting it for so long, trying to rationalize why it's right, why I can smoke. What does it matter if I have lung cancer and the world blows up tomorrow? That was always my mindset. My whole life. The reason I've done a lot of things maybe I shouldn't have done is that same spirit of fear. Like, look, I better get everything I can right now because I know the world's ending. I mean, and that's where a little bit of religion goes wrong because that little bit of religion generated fear in me to make me run after Baalim. You know what I'm saying? Which is part of the reason why I think it's Isaiah who says that Jerusalem is Sodom and Egypt. You know, it's the spirit of bondage. And the thing about it is another thing. People think about the Israelites, the Hebrews in Egypt before Moses got them out of there. None of them even knew they was Hebrews anymore. They were totally assimilated. None of them even knew they needed to be freed. They thought this was normal because their welfare was taken care of. They had jobs. They got to eat. They had a massa they could go to and ask him, uh, what do you think, massa? What should I do? Well, you should keep on building that pyramid. It's the same thing I notice about people they chose to be slaves. If you look in the Bible and you look at Jacob, he stayed at home. He cooked. He did housely chores. And the father didn't like him as much because he wasn't a manly man. So if you notice a lot, why did they use all these people as slaves? It's probably because they were probably part of Jacob. You know what I'm saying? Because he would make a better house servant than a man of the field would. But I guess they could use Esau or Jacob because look, uh, as a slave, because you could use Esau to keep Jacob in line through the fear of violence or getting back at you if you don't do what you, if you don't do what you do. Well, all of a sudden your welfare goes away, and all of a sudden now you're under persecution. Now the whole society turns on you. That's the spirit of bondage, and it's also a spirit like Sodom because look, oh, you don't want to participate in our group orgy? Kill them. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? According to the book of Jasher, it explains what Sodom and Gomorrah was a lot more deeper. If you look at after the Israelites came out of Egypt, they wanted to go back. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want to be free in the wilderness. That's the spirit of bondage. A spirit of bondage isn't always just a physical labor like the slaves were in the South back in the day. That got brought on the slave ships. That in the Bible it says the Jews will be taken away in slave ships to a foreign land and serve the heathen. You know what I'm saying? So it's things to think about. Not so related history, but it's out there. I've seen historical documents. You could find them if you wanted to. I mean, Bondage is good. You like it. We all like it. Right now, if you were hungry, you call a pizza place, they'll deliver it to you. You want some drugs, you just get on that phone. Someone will bring it to you if you got the money. You want some holes. There's a whole section on every side of town. If you want whatever you want, all you gotta do is tap onto this and you can get it if you got the blue. If you put in your work, your bondage work, and got your little bit of trade, you know what I'm saying, for your time and your energy towards building the pyramid that contains you, all these golden idols that we bow to all around us. It's the spirit of Sodom and the spirit of Egypt, and it's the harsh spirit of bondage. I mean, people that are so dependent on the system. The system has made you rich. Egypt has made you rich. But then you want to get mad at the people who are not rich through Egypt and tell them they're in bondage when you're just in bondage as we are. You know what I'm saying? We're all in bondage. If we weren't in bondage, then how come we just can't up and walk away from the system? You know what I'm saying? Why are you thinking I'm crazy? Why are you thinking there's something wrong with I have a mental issue right now? Why are you thinking that? If you're not in bondage. Mental bondage is the worst form of bondage. It's slavery. You don't know you're a slave. The best slaves don't know they're a slave. Willie Lynch. You got to look into Willie Lynch. And then once you study Willie Lynch and you look around your life and you see this crab in a bucket, dog eat dog mentality, you'll see you're in bondage. We were all born into it. I've been made weak by just making things so easy to attain in this world. And it's set up in such a way you play the devil's game, you'll win for a long time, but just like a gamble. You know what I'm saying? Eventually the house starts coming back and reclaiming everything it gave out. And before you know it, you owe Babylon. You owe Egypt. You owe Sodom. And they're going to do just that, sodomize you. You know what I'm saying? Basically, they're going to sodomize you spiritually. Whether if they don't do it physically, it doesn't matter. They're going to turn you out and you're going to enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? And, God willing, you recognize that this form of slavery we're under, there's two kinds. There's the Orwell and there's Huxley. It's Brave New 1984. Orwell said they'll get you through fear and punishment. Huxley said we'll get you through pleasure. And then once you get into the pleasures, we'll slip the drugs in, and before you know it, you'll be in a blackout autonomous state that just goes to pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. You do your work, pleasure, work, pleasure, work, pleasure. That's Egypt. That's bondage. These men didn't create anything. All they did was took something that was very old, that's been here since the beginning of time, and repackaged it in such a way that you don't even recognize that it's the same thing. Therefore, goes to show you how complex this scientific mind control is. How this technocratic slavery has totally... I mean, I was there at the beginning when they made video games. I didn't realize that was a bondage to entertainment. And it was pleasure response. To advance the level, pleasure, success, awesome, cool, exploring, adventure. You get to suppress all your natural things, like where you naturally would go out and explore, or you go hack down a tree and make firewood, things like that. It's been replaced by these artificial matrix-like apparatuses, including this right here, this internet. Even though it's giving me the ability to reach out and touch people and talk and learn, but now I could become dependent on it to an extent. You know what I'm saying? But look, I'm not taking your dang microchip. You're not gonna stick your wire into my brain. You know what I'm saying? If I can help it. You know what I'm saying? But for the time being, since we're already here, this is a direct line to Pharaoh. You know what I'm saying? All these guys, all these EIO networks, you can read this. You send this direct line to Pharaoh from me, from this guy sitting here in this little hallway, door to the basement, door to outside. You can reach out and touch people. You can count coup. without actually having to go out and count coup. But once again, by these, by making it easier, it doesn't benefit you in the end that things become hard. Things that used to be hard become easy. You know, you don't, since you got all your archives data saved in your phone, you don't need to remember a number anymore as long as you got a phone. And Google will save your phone, your contacts for you anyway. So it's even making it less interactive. The machine is taking more of the brain of your brain function, your memory, and it's suppressing your ability to brain or to memorize things. But at the same time, you can remember more with the machine. And there you go. You know what I'm saying? It's just a difficult balance here. And the machine it's got the advantage. And since these people in power in Egypt, in Pharaoh's position, Pharaoh's court, they know this. So in order to get the machine, you got to go to Pharaoh's court. And Pharaoh's has to, here you go, buy my phone. For instance. So, I mean, if you're afraid to quit your job, if you're afraid how your community is gonna perceive you if you have a radical change of thinking and doing, I'm not even talking about nothing like what they would say would be a radical, like a person who wants war. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying someone who wants liberation. You know what I'm saying? Peaceful liberation. And I mean, here's another thing I know why God has let us get into bondage so deep, so deep. And we don't even know it. It's like when Moses was coming back from the wilderness, the desert, and he was saying, look, God said, let my people go. And everyone's like, who? What people? What are you talking about? You know, it was so that later, when Joshua took Jericho, all of Jericho, they were all like, oh my God, the Israelites are out there. Because they heard about how they were delivered from Egypt with a mighty hand from God. You know what I'm saying? So, likewise, we have been deeply given into bondage. We've been sold at birth into bondage, into mental bondage as well as physical. Either way you go, they still got you. They're picking my brain because of all the stuff I put on the internet. So they still benefit from my slavery, even though I don't pay as much taxes as some of the people at the closer to the eye on the pyramid. You know what I'm saying? Even though they don't really pay taxes, they just get to spend your taxes that are closer to the eye. Only the base has to pay taxes. The laws are for the base, which is your equivalent to the Hebrews in Egypt. Of Lot, day to day, was vexed sorely by the wicked conversations that he had to put up with. And that's the same way I feel. I walk through this life like, ugh, because I'm vexed sorely by these wicked conversations. I've even partaken of them because I didn't realize how messed up and gunked up, I really was and still am to some extent. You know what I'm saying? I haven't been liberated from Egypt. I'm still here talking to you right now on the phone. But like I said, it was for the glory of God. And at the same time, he set some things right. But in order to do that, you got to be willing to give up this artificial matrix. Give it all up and walk away to something else that we've never seen before. And people don't even believe it exists anymore. They think if this system crumbled, man would just, this would be like a raisin and just shrivel up into nothing. When no, there wasn't none of this bondage in Egypt throughout all history. You can't say there wasn't free men out there who just lived off the land of what God provided for us, what was good. You really forget about these things. I have a testimony of my people here in Michigan before America. I have the testimony of when they went into the wilderness out of Egypt. So you can't tell me that these things can't be done. And if you think they can't be done, it just goes to show you that your mental bondage, your slavery, your Egypt, your sodomization of your mind. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got to look more deeper into these things and not look at the esoteric or the exoteric meaning without looking at the esoteric meaning. You know what I'm saying?